Avoidants think you are the special one, and that's exactly why they stay away. There is a painful irony in avoidant relationships that almost no one explains clearly, and once you understand it, so many confusing behaviors suddenly make sense. Avoidants don't pull away because you meant nothing to them. They don't disappear because they didn't feel a connection. In many cases, they pull back precisely because the connection felt too real, too intense, too meaningful. When an avoidant meets someone who triggers depth, emotional resonance, safety, or genuine attachment, their nervous system doesn't interpret that as comfort. It interprets it as danger. And this is where the misunderstanding begins. You assume closeness creates security. For them, closeness threatens their sense of control, autonomy, and emotional survival. So when you feel chosen, they feel exposed. When you feel bonded, they feel cornered. When you feel something special forming, they feel something destabilizing waking up inside them that they learned long ago to suppress. Avoidants are not afraid of love in the way people think. They are afraid of dependence, emotional vulnerability, and the loss of internal control that comes with caring deeply. Many of them grew up in environments where love was inconsistent, conditional, overwhelming, or emotionally unsafe. They learned early that needing someone came with a cost: rejection, disappointment, criticism, or emotional neglect. So instead of learning how to stay connected, they learned how to stay functional without attachment. Independence became their armor. Emotional distance became their safety system. When they meet someone casual, surface level, or emotionally unavailable, their system stays calm. But when they meet someone who sees them, understands them, offers emotional presence, and doesn't demand but naturally invites intimacy, their defenses activate. Because you don't feel like a threat, you feel like a mirror. And mirrors are terrifying when you've spent a lifetime avoiding yourself. This is why avoidants often act paradoxical. They may be drawn to you intensely at first. They may open up in ways they never have before. They may share personal stories, vulnerabilities, dreams, and even future ideas that seem deeply intimate. But as soon as the emotional bond starts to solidify, as soon as you feel closer, safer, or more connected, something shifts. The warmth cools. The communication changes. They pull back, become inconsistent, less expressive, more distant. From your perspective, it feels like abandonment. From theirs, it feels like emotional overload. Their nervous system starts signaling, this is getting too real. This could hurt. This could trap me. This could change me. And instead of leaning in, they retreat. Not because they don't value you, but because they value you too much to risk losing their emotional equilibrium. Avoidants often believe, on a subconscious level, that if they truly attach, they will either lose themselves or eventually be hurt beyond repair. They don't trust permanence, even when they crave connection. So when they sense that you matter, when you become emotionally significant, they feel pressure. Pressure to show up consistently. Pressure to be emotionally available. Pressure to maintain intimacy. And pressure triggers avoidance. Staying away becomes their way of regulating feelings they don't know how to process. Distance becomes how they prevent attachment from turning into dependence. And tragically, the very people who could have been their safest connection often become the ones they push away the hardest. This is also why avoidants can stay emotionally tethered while physically distant. They may not reach out, but they think about you. They may not commit, but they compare everyone else to you. They may date others, but nothing quite lands the same. Because you didn't just offer affection, you offered emotional resonance. You didn't overwhelm them. You activated something dormant. And once activated, it doesn't simply disappear. But instead of moving toward that feeling, they compartmentalize it. They bury it under busyness, logic, distractions, and rationalizations like, it wouldn't have worked anyway, or I just wasn't ready, or they wanted too much. These stories aren't about you. They are about protecting themselves from feelings they don't know how to hold. What makes this dynamic especially painful is that avoidants often don't consciously understand why they pull away. They don't wake up thinking, this person is special, so I must disappear. They simply feel an internal discomfort they can't explain. Their body tells them to retreat, to slow down, to regain emotional distance. And because they've spent their lives trusting self-reliance over emotional communication, they act on that impulse without processing it. Meanwhile, you're left questioning your worth, replaying conversations, wondering what you did wrong, when in reality the connection itself was the trigger, not your behavior. Not your behavior, not your needs, not your feelings. The bond. This is why chasing an avoidant rarely brings closeness. It increases their fear. The more you lean in, the more they feel pursued. The more you seek reassurance, the more they feel pressure. The more you try to clarify the relationship, the more they feel trapped. And the tragedy is that what you're asking for, consistency, emotional presence, security, is exactly what they secretly long for, but don't believe they can sustain. So instead of facing that internal conflict, they step away. They convince themselves distance equals safety, even as it quietly reinforces their loneliness. Understanding this doesn't mean tolerating emotional unavailability or waiting indefinitely for someone to heal. It means releasing the false narrative that you were too much or not enough. In many cases, you were simply too real, too grounding, too emotionally present, too capable of forming something meaningful. And for someone who learned to survive by not needing anyone, that kind of connection feels destabilizing. Avoidants don't stay away because you lack value. They stay away because your presence challenges the walls they built to survive. And walls don't crumble without fear. The most empowering realization comes when you stop trying to prove your worth to someone who already feels it but doesn't know how to hold it. You stop interpreting distance as rejection and start seeing it as limitation. You stop internalizing silence and start honoring your own emotional capacity. And paradoxically, this is often when the power shifts. When you stop chasing what retreats, you restore balance. When you stop making yourself smaller to feel safer to someone else, you reclaim your emotional integrity. And whether the avoidant ever returns or not, you step out of the cycle that kept you doubting yourself. Because the truth is this: the right connection doesn't require you to abandon yourself to feel chosen. Love that is safe doesn't punish closeness. Emotional depth isn't a threat to someone who is ready. And if someone stays away because you were special, it doesn't mean you wait. It means you recognize that your capacity for connection deserves someone who can meet it without fear. If this message resonated with you, remember this: someone pulling away is not proof that you lacked value. Sometimes it's proof that the connection touched something they weren't prepared to face. Don't chase clarity from someone who runs from depth. Choose peace over confusion, self-respect over waiting, and growth over repeating the same emotional cycle. The right people don't disappear when things get real. They rise to meet it. If this helped you see the dynamic more clearly, stay with this channel, because understanding is the first step to breaking patterns that no longer serve you.